All right. Is everybody here? Good.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Igor, and I'm moderating the panel today. So with me, there are four amazing people who will chat a little bit. I have the new school questionnaire here and the old school questionnaire here, just in case the technology doesn't work. But at first, let's go with the introduction. Let's start with Peter.
Hi, yeah, I'm Peter Stewart. I work the head of infrastructure at Ankr. So looking after RPC nodes and various other things, advanced APIs and so on for Ankr, with my team, obviously.
My name is Constantine. I'm CEO of dRPC.org, previously head of product from P2P.org. Yep.
We need to share one.
Hi, my name is Rick, co-founder of HOPR and RPCH.
Hi, my name is Dylan, and I'm one of the engineers who will be leading Covalent's decentralized RPC solution.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. So, yeah, I'll start with the questions that were asked by the people in the audience on Slido. There's not that many of them, but we'll probably start with let's start with the dRPC. So, you mentioned in your talk that there are many levels of quality, how you assess the node providers. It looks like aspiring node provider wants to figure out what exactly these levels of quality that you're checking.
Yeah, currently we have kind of like intelligent load balancing system. It's not, obviously it's not enough for quality checks for somebody who just joined to the network, because like how it works right now on the pretty high level. If we get a request from some dep, we understand it on the Cloudflare, what is the geography for this kind of request. And after that, we look at what kind of methods called and what kind of providers, what kind of node inside of this provider will be the best one for that. And we can't rely only on historical data because, for example, like 1 hour ago, it was pretty good node. Right now, it's overcrowded, overloaded, and it does not serve your request well with the best possible latency, for example. Or maybe there was some like kind of fork on the chain, and 5 minutes ago it was okay, but right now it does not working at all. And that's why we need to have some kind of near real-time rating, and we estimated around 1 second. All our providers estimated around 1 second, and it doesn't make any kind of delays to the requests, but still it allows us to cut huge part of potential dangers here, potential risks. Another part, it's just a public library called dshackle. We with Igor already discussed about it more than 1 year ago, and we rewrite it like really heavily since that time. And currently it solves a lot of problems, and it's totally open sourced. You can look at it, you can use it inside of your infra. It solves actually a lot of problems. It's checked like all the chain heads, errors, and so on. So basically, it is good enough for at least centralized providers and a small group of providers as we have right now, like around 20. But still, if we speak about permissionless join, it obviously will be not enough, just because if somebody will join and especially will create 100 providers, and it will be high risk to get even just occasionally to get request from some dep. Even if we will decrease in rating this kind of provider, our users still get a better response on the request. After retry, he also can be served by another malicious actors. So basically, end user will get pretty bad user experience. That's why we plan to implement several levels of checks here, where on the first stage, around 1 month, all our new providers who apply to the network will be connected only to public tier and will serve requests as a public goods for users who like early stage startups, just occasional analytics or something like that. And there's a time that actually malicious actors don't can't allow to spend on this, and there is just enough information for getting some kind of footprint, if I can say like this, fingerprint. And after that, move to next level of like quality checks. But next level, it will be just like a middle between first and existing ones. It's more technical thing. There is more for like, I don't know, future publications, because currently it's just kind of conception. And our CTO just writing it down, and I believe we will publish to these guys from the network, from the community, maybe early first quarter or second quarter next year.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And then continuing on this, I wanted to ask Peter a little bit on the other side. So you mentioned a little bit of malicious actors. So what could be the dark side of the decentralization of infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe a misconception about us. We are actually decentralized in a similar way. We do have multiple providers, actually, for at least for most of our larger blockchains. And yeah, it's a huge challenge. I'm not sure we worry so much about malicious actors. I think that's a fairly hard attack to do. Certainly, we are worried about people doing MEV on transactions, which I think you mentioned during your talk as well. So it's really about protection of the user rather than really believing that somebody's going to have a node that's got a completely different blockchain or so on. But yeah, we've been decentralized essentially from the start in terms of even when we integrate new blockchains, we have the foundations providing their own nodes and so on like that. So we kind of accept that they are trusted actors within this. But yeah, we would like to move to a decentralized future, or we call it a distributed future, rather than decentralized, because we still have a major centralization point within having a single domain and all the rest of it. But yeah, this is the main thing that we look at is in terms of maliciousness. I think it's a fairly hard attack, actually.
It's interesting. And also, I wanted to ask a little bit, Rick, what's your thoughts about, again, if we're looking at right now, like RPCH works with just like a handful of providers, right? But then if we look at the even more distributed future, what could be the extra privacy implications on that for the customers?
So the basic idea is that every RPC provider, I think asking me personally, privacy should be default. Fine. The world does not what I want, and I truly believe that it's important that there's a choice. I think not having a choice is always not good, because you don't know what the user or the developer would like to do with it. Even the RPCH setup will have an option to run your RPC calls as a wallet through the platform by using HOPR and by not using HOPR. Not because I personally think it's not necessary, but I personally think it's important to give that choice to the user for whatever they would like to do, for trying out stuff. Next steps in terms of your question on privacy is that we need to scale HOPR in the background in order to become really, currently we're just having 350 nodes. We're scaling it by the end of next year to a few thousand nodes, but I think this is going to be the most fundamental part in order to put RPCH on a fundament that makes it easy to scale.
Yep, thank you. And then one more component of everything, like we talked about the privacy, we talked about the default RPC, but there is also indexing involved, and it's used in a lot of projects. And what are the key considerations, let's say, for the decentralization and challenges for decentralization of indexers? That's a question for Dylan.
The question is some of the key challenges for decentralization for an indexer.
For indexers in particular.
Yeah, so there's a few things to think about there. So when you go to an indexer, you are trusting that the data, or you hope that the data that they're providing you is as secure as the data that is available on the blockchain. So as an indexer, at least at Covalent, we are striving to maintain that security as well. So the Covalent network has a whole network of validators, and these validators work together to come to consensus that the data that the Covalent network is indexing is in fact correct, and the proofs are submitted back to the network to prove that the data is correct. So to improve that accuracy over time, we just want to grow our network of validators to ensure that as we're indexing data over time, that the validators can always be in agreement that this data that we are ingesting is in fact correct.
Yeah, thank you. And also one question from the audience is that, what will you do to make on-chain payments to Covalent fast, basically, if it does per request, basis?
On-chain payments to Covalent.
Yeah, when you have to, I mean, it's mentioned that how the payment process could be implemented on a per query basis on-chain. Will it be too slow?
Will it be too slow?
Yes.
So the architecture for that is still in the works, but it will be very similar to how other per query providers work. This won't be settling on Ethereum. There'll be our own chain system for handling the per query payments. But yeah, don't worry about that. That'll not be a concern for paying for the API in the future.
Okay. One more question that's probably for everybody is we mentioned a lot of geographic diversity, a lot about different players like organizational diversity and stuff like this. But also one more important thing that's Ethereum Foundation usually cares about and stuff is the actual client diversity and implementation diversity. What are your thoughts about that and what it could bring to the table in terms of this? Yeah, we'll start with Peter.
Yeah, I think it's a really valid point. We do have, in general, a reasonable amount of client diversity. We don't run absolutely every client. There's a range of reasons for that, mostly about performance. A lot of nodes perform similarly on a consensus way, but in terms of the RPC performance, there are massive differences. And when you're serving as many calls as we do, we're up at 200 billion a month in terms of the number of calls. We really have to optimize. There's even if it would be nice to have a greater diversity of clients, the economics don't really work for that. We have to run the things that are the most efficient for RPC queries.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's not let's say, suboptimal to use all of these kind of clients, but still it's really important to do that at least for some % of your workload, especially in case of Ankr, because as you said, there's a pretty huge workload and you have a lot of different clients, different types of workload. So it is really important, and I believe it's really underestimated how valuable could be feedback from any kind of RPC providers who use different types of clients to clients developers. Because we're also in touch with all of these guys, and sometimes it's pretty unpredictable problems with some corner cases. And if everybody will use something that just cheaper or just faster, and okay, that's all, we will use just this one. It will be a problem because when something happens with this particular client, everybody goes down and this is a price that we need to pay. Obviously we can't pay this price for equal amount of equal percentage per each client, but still we need to have some kind of system to send some % of the workload, estimate how good or how bad it works with particular method, because as far as I know, there's different methods works differently with different clients.
Tracing.
Yeah, especially. And we can get pretty different results from that. And timing for that also pretty varied. So yeah, I believe we need to support this kind of efforts and have diversification of the clients. But yeah, obviously not in the equal percentage.
Yeah, why not? No, so HOPR is ready. We're live since a year. We're onboarding the first use cases and customers. So more diversity is for us, more clients. That's always fine. Don't misunderstand me. But the reason why I said why not depends a little bit on where we want to go. I believe that, and I guess everybody here will agree with me, RPC calls are standard. None of you is Yes, I mean, they're faster, more decentralized, better, nicer, lower in price, whatever. But if I understand everybody correctly, that's not the core what you're currently I mean, you start with RPC calls or you're doing RPC calls on the side, but that's not the core what you're doing. There's way more interesting stuff out there, and B, there's way better margin business out there. So and that's where I want to go. So I think it really depends a little bit, and client diversity is important, but I think it really depends on what the client wants. Sometimes the client maybe only, wants something fast, cheap, decentralized, that's it. And then you're like, okay, let's like all of you did. Let's have this department. It's doing this what it should, really, really good, improving on a marginal level because we're already at 80%. That's blah blah blah. But then on the other side, maybe you also establish a department where you say, okay, good, let's go further. Let's explore in different spaces. Let's go somewhere else. So I think it depends on what the client wants. Just to say something different.
Yeah, so from Covalent's perspective, the services we provide, Covalent is going to be providing read RPC requests, and we'll be partnering with other providers who run the full node who can offer the right to the blockchain as well. So from our perspective, the client diversity is good for the end user, but we're just really going to be focused on making sure that our requests match the standards of the node provider that we're partnering with.
Yeah, Gateway does run a lot of different clients, and especially, on both staking side and the RPC as well. And we try to run minority, especially in the staking side, because but we need to also reach the quality standards. Let's say if you are in the liquid staking pool, you don't want to be the worst provider in the staking pool, but the most opinionated one, just because. So we also, trying to do this, and I think the biggest pain on this is actually on L2s right now, when client diversity is sort of non-existent, and you get what you get. And also one more, those who run.
Well, you're working at least on one L2 that.
Oh yeah. We're trying to. It's not officially, we teased it a little bit, but we're trying to bring client diversity by adapting the Aragon client towards Polygon zkVM. So at least it will have it. I think Optimism also has an Aragon implementation, and that's about it, right? But also, I think one more pain that I want to mention, that's this ish in standard ish JSON RPC is really bad, really, because you cannot mix for the same API request. You can't really mix different node types. You may be okay, we send all the ETH get proof to guess. And then every tracing is on Aragon, and let's say subscriptions on Nethermind. That's what roughly we are doing there. But we cannot do half ETH get proof to Geth and half onto Nethermind, because the results won't match each other. But one more question that I wanted to actually ask is, I think we can, it's more related to Covalent actually, is that we always had this notion of permanent data on the chain. But then right now with the new things like state expiry, with dunk sharding, with blob transactions, it started becoming a little bit more ephemeral. So what are your thoughts on that, and how maybe proper decentralization can help with that?
Yeah, so this is a problem that Covalent's really excited to solve in the future as this becomes a bigger and bigger trend in the industry. As a read and database focused company, we are really set up to address this problem of data availability. We're starting to attack this problem by serving these read JSON RPC requests, partnering with a node provider. But as the Covalent network continues to evolve and is built out, we'll be able to have proofs for all the data that we're indexing, as I mentioned before, is valid and correct. So while this data may not be available on the blockchain, it'll be available through the Covalent network, and you'll be able to look up the proofs for that data to ensure that the data you're getting from our network is in fact valid. So stay tuned in the next couple years as EIP 4.4 progresses, and hopefully Covalent can be one of the providers to address that problem.
Cool. Yeah, very interesting. So, and final question before we go on a break. So it's for everybody. So again, in the foundation, when we build nodes and stuff, we always thought about, okay, this node should be run on just a regular laptop, so anybody can run it. There is this Ethereum on Raspberry Pi projects. There is DApp nodes and yada yada yada. But for you, like moving forward, is it still a dream to achieve this level of decentralization when people actually run their own nodes, or yeah, what's your like vision of the future, and maybe some final thoughts?
So my thoughts on that are the Ethereum should always be, we should be striving to be able to run the nodes on any computer. Raspberry Pi, like that's a great idea, but it's definitely not feasible for the future in its current state. I think depending on the node, it's around 12 terabytes for the Ethereum chain, and that's only going to grow more and more to the future. So I think there's going to be more of a push towards light nodes to ensure that happens. And as we move to the forward, we'll have to look at other long-term data availability solutions like Covalent to ensure that this vision of decentralization can remain.
Love the questions, thank you very much. I need to get a shout out to Paul from DeppNode. We're young, we're small, we have 350 nodes live. You can go to network.hoppernet.org. Yeah, that needed to be, sorry. There is 350 people, single individual people who are running a Hopper node. And I think that's the beauty about it. That doesn't make us better or worse. It's just, you know, it's small and it's working. Why I'm telling this story is we always try to do it from day one. That's the reason why we partnered up with DeppNode. That's the reason why they have a co-branded device. It says, you know, laser engraved Hopper. It's all cool. You got some GNO in the very beginning. So I think it's fairly good value for money. Why am I mentioning DeppNode? Because it's not only a Hopper node and only available for Hopper. You're able to do many other beautiful things with this DeppNode. I'd love to see DeppNode grow a lot more because it's the beginning of it. Not even a developer starts by putting a rack in your, you know, basement. That's not cool because it's too loud, it's too noisy, it's too and so on and so on. Was it always easy? Hell fucking no. I think we should have started like clever people did in this round. Did we learn a lot? Yeah, but I can only tell everybody in this room, go to DeppNode, have a look what they have, buy your own little device, and you'll get for your projects lovely stories like, I think a year ago there was a fisher boat in Vietnam running this Hopper node while sailing. We know it's stupid, but it was cute and it was nice. And the first time a user tells you from the community, hey, we finally managed to get it up on a Raspberry Pi, you're like, oh my God, it's a hell of a shitload to do, but it's awesome. Just do it.
Yeah, from my perspective, we already discussed it like internally. That is, basically, there is no restrictions that you can't or you can have your own node. And we spoke a lot about possibilities inside of dRPC network. And as I mentioned before, sometimes users need just an access to data, and it does not matter like how fast it is, or like how maybe any other metrics could be not so like relevant for him, but price will be the most important thing. So why not? Why we can provide this kind of opportunity to these guys? And from my perspective, it's more about preparing everything to just be sure that quality not getting worse with this. But if final users pretty happy with that and we can help with that, I am like all time for that.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, we've done some initiatives towards this. I mean, shout out to the Aragon team. They've really made running an archive node in particular so much easier. I mean, I think it's 2.7 terabytes right now for Ethereum. Full archive syncs very quickly, et cetera, et cetera. That is certainly within the reach of most people in wealthy countries, at least. But I think that's the big challenge. It's simply, for either technical or financial reasons, very, very difficult for people to run individual nodes. And I don't think we have enough of them. I wish there were more. I hope the technology goes towards, and I know with Aragon version 3, certainly in terms of the total disk footprint is definitely going down. But the CPU and RAM requirements are still very high. So I mean, it's out of reach for a large percentage of the population of the world to do that. However, that is where we need to, I believe, that's where we need to go towards. And we have services like chainsnap.io where you can pay relatively small amount of money to download what we use ourselves internally for snapshotting the entire blockchain data. And that's certainly a data availability option as well in terms of this. I don't think we personally will ever go away from having archive nodes. What is it, 4.4s? The proposal, I think I was talking to the Aragon team afterwards, and they're also not going away from ever doing archive nodes. So I think, you know, not to mention Aragon again, but they are a really great team. I work closely with them, and I think I think they're doing a great job towards data availability.
I think technically Aragon 3 kind of has 4.4.4.4 because what it tells that historical data should be off-chain, and technically it's going to be in snapshots off-chain.
Yeah.
If we go in technicalities, but
so yeah, it's fully immutable data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but
What
thank
about
you very
you?
much. Oh yeah, sorry.
What about you?
Yeah, I think like it's very important if we look in it to the future that the kind of Ethereum or Gnosis chain or something becomes really like more like a settlement and a trust layer for L2s, especially where we are kind of moving towards. Then the more distributed it is, the better, like because it's kind of protected by this decentralization of consensus. More technical details in my talk, by the way, in the next section. But yeah, it also allows things like L2s not to care about that much. So they might require like crazy servers with like terabytes of RAM or something to run them. But if it's set also on Ethereum, that's people just run out of the garage. It's much safer for everybody. So I think that it should continue. That's let's say at least this kind of a root chain level nodes should be able, like people should be able to run, and the more people are able to run, the better. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks very much for everybody who joined the panel. Please just do a round of applause, and yeah, we can do on a break.
Thank you, Igor.